Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Blaster Master 02. Okay, I've finished the repairs. The hover function's working again. Which also means we can head back into space. If we want to get into space, we'll need to get back to where we landed. As if you don't already know about landing points. Yeah, you're right. Let's head back. With the hover fixed, it's a lot easier to traverse around this rough planet. There might even be some places I couldn't get to before. And the last part we started off the game, and now we have the hover feature for the GAIA-SOPHIA. They no longer have the option of a double jump, you just have the hover straight up, and it's pretty useful for getting high up. With that said, it does drain your SP gauge at a pretty considerable rate, so try to, press it rhythmically rather than holding it if you're trying to go for distances. And we can just outright leave Planet Flosante now. But there's a couple items I want to grab along the way, and there's a couple more caves we could enter. Again, though, you're not able to 100% basically any main planet on the first visit. So last time, we briefly talked about some of the levels that the blaster rifle has in this one, so let's talk about a few more of them. There are notably some features of some of these levels I'm not going to be able to talk about, though, until we get certain other items, because some of the levels interplay with certain sub-weapons in certain ways. The second level of the blaster rifle is the Stinger. The main thing with that is that its shots can outright pierce terrain. It'll stop when it breaks rubble, but its rapid fire is faster than it was back in Blaster Master 1 as the Penetrator, and 3 shots are allowed on screen at a time. Damage-wise, it's a bit of a weird case because it is stronger than the level 1 fire rate, but it's like 1.3 times stronger, weirdly. And that kind of is similar to what the third blaster level has, which is the Splasher. The Splasher is sort of a combination of two of the attacks from the last game. It's a 45-degree cone of pure damage in front of you that you hold the button to fire consistently, but the longer you hold the button, the shorter the range gets. It does damage every certain amount of time, and each of those shots does about 1/3 the damage of the base level blaster. For now, though, it's time for a mini-boss. I guess actually, no, just normal boss. This is the Mine Might. The Mine Might is going to spin around the arena, stopping at occasional points on the circle, which are the squares, to drop mines. When it does that, you can counterattack it, and at that point, it'll flee to the center, where it's open for mass damage and thus can be killed, as you can see, pretty quickly. We'll talk a little more about the Splasher's intricacies in a moment. For right now, it's time for us to pick up our first new sub-weapon. This is the Proximity Mine, landmine that automatically explodes when enemies draw near. Found a new sub-weapon. It feels like forever since I got one. Using the right sub-weapon can make a world of difference in battle. I should take into account the weapon's attributes and the enemy's movements when choosing which weapon to use. I don't use the proxy mines too much because I feel they're a little bit too much of a defensive choice for me, but they're for someone. And they actually do work well on a certain thing on screen right now, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Warhead missiles is a missile sub-weapon that fires in a wave pattern. The missiles will fire where your cannon's pointing, so aim carefully. Compared to the warhead missiles we had on Earth, these will connect much more easily, but you'll still need to aim carefully to hit small enemies with every missile. Yeah, your base missile sub-weapon in Sophia is no longer like 3 missiles that go in a cone around you. They essentially do the wave beam from Metroid, where there's one consistently going straight, then 2 that wave around and around. It's a lot better for hitting enemies with. So something I was talking about a moment ago. If you look on the pause screen, there's something called the shortcut menu, where you can map something to the ZL and ZR buttons. On my first playthrough, I thought that just meant it would swap you to those weapons. But no, if you press those buttons and assign them to something, you will outright use those abilities when you press those buttons. And things like the proxy mines do well on those. That's a life up, that does what it says on the tin. You increase yours and Sophia's health by 1. For now, though, we can press X and leave the planet. And this is where we get to talk about something else. We have successfully departed Planet Flosante. Seems like there were no issues with the parts you repaired. Great. Now let's search for the dimensional tunnel leading to the next sector. Dimensional tunnels are wormholes connecting different space sectors. Fred's wormhole ability can sync with the tunnels to open them, but we usually need an access key to do that. Fortunately, it doesn't seem like we need one this time. And now we get some new discoveries. That's a sub-planet. You might remember earlier on Flosante, we found a little sub-map that leads to a resource planetoid. This is one of said planetoids. Blaster Master 02 does away with the purely Metroid format of the first game, where it's all an entire interconnected map, and instead has more of like Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, Shantae and the Pirate's Curse styled linear Metroid-like levels that you access one at a time. And I think that's for the better. And there's Planetoid Map A3. Some Planetoid maps are found on other planetoids, and the resource planetoids are usually some form of challenge. Platforming, combat, even sometimes there are extra caverns for top-down Jason sections. These are your side stuff. You don't need to do these to finish the game for the most part, but it's recommendable because you'll get extra sub-weapons by doing them, you'll get extra health pickups or SP pickups. It's just worth doing them no matter what. With that said, this new boss here is Hexabibi. It is a bee that will constantly spawn out either larvae that will bounce around or outright bees that will try to home in on you. It moves in sort of a Mobius strip, Infinity Wave pattern, but it does eventually stop in the middle to spread out the bees, and that's when it's the most open for damage. Jump and try to like aim the conversion points of the missile sub-weapon on the core, because they will all hit at once and do a lot of damage. This fight isn't exactly hard, but it can be annoying to hit because of how small the target is. So in that regard, you might want to wait until later to do this, but I never have. And for beating that, we get a new sub-weapon, and it's one I really like. Hexa missiles. Missiles that home in on enemies. Short press the sub-weapon button for single lock, long press for multi. These are homing missiles. It costs a lot of SP to use, but they will home in on any nearby targets. And like they said, if you mash the button like that, they just fly out and will home in on whatever's nearby. But if you hold the button, you can lock onto multiple enemies in a row to get a lot of crowd controlling really quickly. There were probably some people disappointed when 0-2 and by extension 0-3 weren't the exact same, like, completely interconnected level design of Blaster Master 1 and its remake. But considering how much focus there is on the combat here in the Zero trilogy, I think this works a lot better because it shows them focusing on what they know works and just having the levels be fun things along the way to boss fights, if that makes sense. With that said, not every planetoid works. There's a couple of real stinkers in here for occasional split reasons. In fact, this is one of the ones that can cause problems and show some early cracks. On this planetoid, there are two other planetoid maps we need to grab. One on the lower route, one on the upper route. And the upper route can only be accessed by out-of-tank Jason. But you need to first use your sub-weapons and all that to destroy the minerals to make the platforms pop up on the upper route, because this is where you're likely going to find out just how little a distance Jason out of tank can fall before it's an instant kill. Some of the heights we're going to be seeing from platform to platform up there are enough to kill him if you just jump from one to another instead of just falling off of it. And by that factor, Jason out of tank can be troublesome. Which is kind of funny because, like Blaster Master 01, this game has some DLC characters. They outright balanced one of them to be better out of tank because of this, so that it would be radically different. I might showcase and talk about the DLC characters down the line in the LP, because there's even a sub-mode to this game I'm not doing in the main LP that I might cover at another point that was DLC, and I can talk about the other characters more in depth there, or I'll just talk about them in line during a Planetoid down the line, because I know I talked about Shantae and Shovel Knight in the first game just during like random levels in Blaster Master 01. So going back to the Splasher sub-weapon, or I guess main weapon, its initial range before it reduces is about half a screen, but you can replenish its range at any point by doing a blast counter, or by not firing the weapon for about a second. But notably, you can still use sub-weapons while you're using the splasher, so you can, say, be splashing an enemy up in the face while spamming the grenades for extra damage, or using the proxy mines. So keep that in mind. It also interplays with another sub-weapon pretty well, but we'll talk more about that when we eventually get it. Just how long has it been since we left Earth on this journey to Sophia? Eve's putting on a brave face, but she's getting weaker. Even though Sophia is slowing the corruption. Traveling through space like this is physically demanding. We were prepared for trouble, but with every delay, the problem feels more and more urgent. Yet, I know we're on the right path. It won't do any good to dwell on the past right now. We're almost out of the wormhole. Who knows what we'll encounter on the other side? How about new discoveries? There are times you find planetoid maps for planetoids that are not in the sector you find the maps in, like this one for B4 we found back in Sector A. By and large, though, you don't need to worry too much about backtracking in this game, because of the very individual level structures. There's basically no planetoids besides the main planets you need to visit more than once. Next blaster rifle level on the docket, though, is the Seeker. The Seeker, you can fire up to 3 slow-moving wave bullets in a row that, when they make contact with an enemy, they turn into a homing projectile that tracks that target for upwards of like 5 seconds. It can pierce through other enemies and terrain to keep bouncing off the targeted enemy as many times as it can. I think every impact does about 2/3 the blaster rifle damage. Right there, we got another one of my favorite sub-weapons for crowd control reasons, the Impact Wave. You press the special weapon button, and a giant circle explodes around you and will kill a lot of small enemies in one shot. It might look like a certain Shovel Knight weapon. That is entirely intentional, as we'll find out later down the line. Something to note about the Impact Wave, though, is that every use of it does drain your SP bar a good amount, so using it when low can be kind of dangerous. It's not a bad candidate to have on a shortcut, though, so just having it on ZL or ZR. With that, though, that's every planetoid we can explore for now, so now it's time for us to head to our next major level. Welcome to Planet Montoj. We've successfully touched down on Planet Montoj. This place has quite a lot of water, just like Earth. Oh? Getting homesick? No, I'm fine, but if we land on water, there's no impact for the GAIA system to convert into SP. Some locations might be limited in opportunities to recover SP. We should be able to find the tunnel's access key here, yeah? I can't pinpoint the exact location, but I can say for certain it's here. But I'm also picking up lots of mutant readings here, too. One of those mutants must have the key, huh? Jason, Sophia's getting another signal, something non-mutant. Again, no exact location, but wherever it is, it's not far. Got it. Let's go check it out. Notably, you can check the map at any time and your next objective will be listed. Oh, Happy Frog. Fred's getting all excited about all the water. He can't even swim without a dive unit, yet he's still so happy. Good Frog. So, like they said, water can be a bit of an enemy for the GAIA-SOPHIA because the impact you might rely on to get your SP back doesn't happen. So you need to be pretty careful about when you want to try and use your SP in that case, if there's water nearby. Often there'll be just little SP pickups, little blue tabs in that case if you need it, but be careful all the same. Otherwise, the major gimmick for this level is bamboo shoots. At several fixed points throughout more or less every screen in the level, bamboo shoots will, well, appropriately shoot out of the floors, walls, ceilings, anywhere, and blockade you. Be careful because the sharp tips do damage you. And keep a note the different colors of bamboo. Green bamboo is just there no matter what, but orange bamboo is more or less a locked door that you need to find the correct pressure switch to activate to close it. Or open it in most cases, actually. I don't think you ever close one. For now, though, it's time for our first level in here, and this level introduces something I'm not the biggest fan of, but it doesn't have too much to worry about. You might notice there's a door on screen with 2 keyholes in front of it. Now, several times throughout the game, there's going to be locked doors that you need to find keys, often beneath rubble-type tiles or within certain enemies, to progress further in a room. Gun level 7, EX charge. You can charge its shots by holding down the shoot button. It can also retain its charge when using a blast cannon. If you can master this technique, the EX charge is extremely powerful. However, the shot it fires when not charged are weaker than the G blaster. Be careful with enemies that don't go down in one shot. It's even more powerful when combined with an element-based sub-weapon, which is the main thing I've been kind of avoiding talking about. There are going to be elemental-based sub-weapons that some of the blaster levels interplay with nicely, but I'll talk more about those when we get to it. So being the introductory area to keys, the major gimmick here is finding keys. And there's crops you can actually trample on, but if it's a first playthrough, I recommend avoiding doing what I'm doing and just going all over them, no problem. Because if you step on them, you do actively anger the boss fight, and it will get more aggressive. I'll talk more about how when we're actually in the fight. So the EX charge, as Eve just said, you hold the button to charge it. It takes about 1.5 seconds to fully charge, and you fire a massive bullet. You can use sub-weapons and blast counters when charging, and it will not go away at all. As for the damage ratios, uncharged shots are about 2/3 a standard level 1 shot. Partially charged are the same strength, but a fully charged shot is about, apparently, 8/3 the damage of a standard G-Blaster shot. And it does get a lot of impact based off elemental sub-weapons you might have equipped or are using, but we're going to talk about those whenever we get those. Less so in this area, more so future variants like this. Always make sure you're keeping your eyes out for keys beneath anything, because there are times where some items or even some checkpoints are locked behind keys. In this case, though, you just need all the 6 from the main room. It's time for the boss. A human-shaped mutant? No, wait, an actual human? What? You with Zavira? Zavira? You mean the mutants? No, You've gone and destroyed the crops I worked so hard on, you dumb spud! Get ready for a beating. That gear he has? No way. Damn, I don't have a choice here. If you trample about 40% of the crops in the previous screen, Gonbei here, every one of his attacks does double damage. You do normally get an achievement for beating him when he's like this. Attack-wise, Gonbei can be a little bit complicated. He's got a range attack where he throws a shield in front of him, then throws 2 sickles that boomerang around, one short range, one long range. But the long range one will almost always go into the leaves, so you need to make sure you're keeping an eye on where it's going, otherwise you are going to take damage. He's got a dash attack where he kind of throws his spear up above his head to kind of indicate he's about to do it, but then he'll dash at you. If you interrupt him somehow, be it, he's likely to follow it up at least 2 to 3 more times with more dashes, which is pretty good because it's easily when he's the most open for blast counters at the moment. You just need to really make sure you're taking care of his damage because, as you can see, I really shouldn't have stepped on those crops, but oh well. Despite me not liking the proximity mines, this is a fight that can come in pretty good handy because each of your sub-weapons have separate ammos to begin with, so you can use those and your grenades in tandem. But when he's in the leaves about to dash, if you keep an eye on which direction he's moving, you might be able to predict what path he's going to take and then just leave some in the path for some extra damage. But I don't do that, but I could recommend it. If you do the normal damage fight, this isn't too bad, but because I went on the plants, this can actually be quite the dangerous fight. But that's an achievement if you wanted one. Ugh, you got some gumption. Damn, he's still not giving up?
Gonbei!
Tay!
Jason, can you hear me? I got a call from that guy's support droid.
If he's got a support droid, then he must be...
That's right, Jason. He's an MA pilot.
Metal Attacker. The MA series was created and dispersed throughout space in order to combat the mutant threat. Eve once said that Sophia III was not the only vehicle in that line. What's the deal, Ty?
No deal about it. That feller's a true blue MA pilot, same as you.
What? I'm so sorry. I had no idea there were other MA pilots out there.
Gonbei, you blockhead. If you listen to what folks told you, I wouldn't have to clean up your dang messes so much.
Well, I'm just glad it's cleared up now. Jason and Eve, was it? I'm Gonbei. I work as a farmer in this village. Well, these days it's more of a ghost village. The villagers are all hiding in a refuge deep in the mountains.
And I'm who called y'all all the way from that there refuge. Name's Ty. Ty?
Nice to meet you. We came here to find the access key for the dimensional tunnel near this planet. Outer space, Planet Sophia, dimensional tunnels. Sure is a wild old world outside of this planet, huh? Most likely the boss mutant, who you call Zavira, has the key. We both want to defeat Zavira, so how about we work together? Access key, huh? Zavira's definitely got a key, but... To tell you the truth, my MA's in a bad state. Zavira gave her an awful thrashing, so Tay's been trying her best to repair her since then.
Been doing my best, but I ain't got the parts I need. Gonbei got her good and busted. So we need some brand new parts if we need to fix her up.
Well, that's the story. I'd love to help, but we need to get my MA up and running first.
In that case, I'll lend a hand. We've got some spare parts you might be able to use as well. Would that be okay, Jason?
Of course. Anything for a fellow mutant blasting MA pilot.
Much obliged. Hate to ask, but could y'all come out to our refuge?
You can get there by scaling the cliff outside of the village. I've got it blocked off right now, but I'll clear it away for you. Got it. We'll head up there as soon as we get out of here. But we are still going to get a power up for beating Gonbei. This is the Shift Up Attacker. This is our second blast counter. This is an interesting one that you dash toward enemies for close range damage. I don't like it too much for mass enemies or most boss fights, but there's a couple that comes in handy. If anything, I like it more for its mobility option because it's a faster way of movement that just takes up your counterpoints. And now we can actively get up higher in this room since we've beaten Gonbei. There was bamboo blocking the way before. Impact Wave will surround GAIA-SOPHIA in a wall of ultrasonic waves. It's best used when surrounded or to attack enemies too low for the cannon to reach. It can penetrate terrain, but won't destroy obstacles and uses quite a bit of SP. Come to think of it, haven't we seen someone before who used an attack like this? I could have sworn. Huh? Yeah, he would blow a horn and unleash a wave of damage. Oh, but his main weapon was something else. Like a cannon tool you'd see a construction worker carry. Is that so? So like I said, very deliberately the Shovel Knight weapon. You can set shortcuts for the G rifle's gun levels and the G-SOPHIA's different weapons. On the subscreen, just move the cursor to the weapon and press the shortcut button you want to set. It's so nice being able to use different weapons on the fly. Of course, but don't forget you'll still need the right gun level or SP to use the weapons you set. Yeah, that's the big thing. Say you want to set, like, the shield type weapon to one shortcut and the charge one to another. You're still going to need, that means upwards of, like, what, level 7 on your gun to use both of them. So keep in mind that limitation whenever you're using those. It doesn't come into play too often, especially down the line when we get a certain power up, but it's worth noting. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 3, we're going to explore Montage a little more and actively go meet up with Gonbei again in the process. See you guys then.